No one has more state pride than New Mexicans. The vibrant culture, bold flavors, unique history, and dramatic landscapes under our Zia sun are like no other. And the people of New Mexico are a rare breed. As diverse as we are, together we breathe life and soul into this high desert land. A land that promises adventure. I'm Michael Newman, and as your host, I'll be taking you with me as I seek out the best the land of enchantment has to offer.
New Mexico feels like home to me. It feels so true. It's time well spent when I spend it with you.
Thanks for watching another episode of New Mexico True Television. I'm your host, Michael Newman. This week, we're traveling all over the map, literally. From the wilderness areas of the north to the eastern edges of our state, clear over to the tucked away mountain towns of the southwest, we travel far and wide to seek out some of our state's treasures. Just 36 miles south of Farmington off New Mexico Highway 371 South is the Bisti de Nazin Wilderness, also known as Bisti Badlands. This stunning and surreal landscape of the Four Corners region is one of the most unique and otherworldly terrains you can find in our state, and I cannot wait to check it out. Upon entering the gate to the Bisti, you won't find a trailhead, but instead, the vast barren land that allows you to choose your own direction. And with no one else in sight, I feel like I have the entirety of this arid wilderness to myself. The dry, cracked earth is surprisingly soft beneath my feet, and should be perfect for a day's exploration on foot. What I'm really loving about this place is that it's so accessible from the road where you can just park your car. You can just hike for miles and treading your own path. It's like no one has been there before, and there's just so much open land. And I also read that this was ancient delta land where old crocodiles and alligators and lizards used to roam. And now you can actually find fossils, and a lot of dinosaurs are still in this rock where they actually excavate every single year and find new dinosaurs that have only been in this area. You can't find them anywhere else in the world. The further I get into the Bisti, its existence as a swampy and lush landscape providing a rich and abundant habitat for dinosaurs and other prehistoric life forms bears a stark contrast to the strange and desolate land I am traversing now. This is amazing! I mean it. I can honestly say that I have never seen anything like this. Take one step where man has never stepped before. I felt like that was appropriate. That feels like I'm on the moon. While I have no doubt of the beauty in prehistoric times, the formations of today are pretty mind-blowing. I feel like I'm actually standing on lava right now. Don't let my analogy fool you. Unlike other badlands in our state created by molten material, this landscape is actually comprised of sandstone, shale, mudstone, coal, and silt. These sedimentary rocks are rich in fossils displaying the animal life that once roamed this terrain, as well as a plethora of other treasures you are sure to find as you explore. Maybe like obsidian or something? I don't know. Looks like there's some quartz. I just randomly walked by that, and you can buy this in the store for like 20 bucks or something. I don't know. It's beautiful. But you gotta give it back to the nature. Yes, I abide by the codes of the wilderness. Take nothing but pictures, leave nothing but footprints. That is a motto I can believe in. In the Bisti, leaving footprints is the fun part anyway. And before I know it, my feet have led me into a maze of hoodoos. Formations that have been weathered into pinnacles, spires, caprocks, and other indefinable configurations. The hoodoo name itself evokes the mysterious nature of these rocks, and their statuesque and towering features not only command awe and respect, but feed my intrinsic and growing curiosity of this place. I'm playing like I'm an archaeologist looking for some fossils. I think I found something. Nope, I'm not that lucky. But despite my shortcomings as an archaeologist, I'm still fortunate enough to be a more passive participant here. The views alone will give me plenty of material to reminisce on. You know, I've only heard about the Bisti Badlands and only seen pictures, but actually being here is completely different than what I thought it was going to be. You really feel like you're not on Earth, and you can blaze your own path. Like, who doesn't want to do that? After leaving the hoodoos, I make my way to another grove of formations, quite appropriately named if I do say so myself. The land of cracked eggs. What a name. That's so cool. While I've seen my share of rock formations in our state, I can honestly say that these guys are a first for me. That looks like actual sculpture. It's like somebody made these by hand. That is so cool. They have individual grooves, like fingers would just mix through it. Color me impressed. Even without marked trails, no matter what path you take, this is a land where you are sure to encounter the peculiar, the unusual, the fascinating, and ultimately insanely rich geology. So if you ever get an inkling to walk on another planet but you're limited to Earth, come to Bisti Badlands. You won't be disappointed. With such an open landscape, it's really easy to get lost, so make sure you keep track of where your car is. There aren't many places to stop around, so you may want to stop in Farmington or Crown Point for water and snacks. If you have time, I would plan to camp overnight so you can see these surreal formations at different times of day. And if you do, make sure you have enough water because there's nowhere to get water out there. And of course, bring your camera. Stay tuned to find out how Clovis helped make rock and roll history. Sign up to receive monthly newsletters about events and happenings around the state at newmexico.org. Sitting in the heart of downtown Clovis is the Norman and Vi Petty Rock and Roll Museum. A tribute to this musical legend and the early days of rock and roll, the museum houses a reconstructed recording studio, countless musical paraphernalia, and plenty of studio and backstage photographs documenting this monumental era. So why here in Clovis? Of all the fascinating history that has occurred in our state, perhaps one of the lesser known tales is the story of Clovis's native son Norman Petty and the role he and his hometown played in the history of rock and roll. In a nutshell, Norman Petty was a gifted musician and brilliant soundman. His precision and knack for sound, as well as his experimental inclinations, created the sound most notably heard in the legendary tracks of Buddy Holly and Roy Orbison, iconic musicians whose recordings at Norman Petty's studio helped launch their careers. The studio at the museum is fashioned after the original studio, located at its original address, 1313 West 7th Street. Kenneth Broad runs it today, and I've set up an appointment to see the studio in person.
This is the room where most of the artists would assemble when sessions were underway. And Norman Petty recorded by sessions and not by the hour. He didn't believe that creativity came by the clock.
And what kind of producer, what kind of person was he in the music sense?
Oh, he was very exacting, perfectionist, had perfect pitch. But he was a kind, gentle man that really had a lot of patience with artists that came here to record. I was told about one session they had 84, 85 takes on it.
Let's talk about what Norman's musical kind of sound was, because what he created here in Clovis was something that no one had ever seen. It influenced the likes of the Beatles and all these other people that came out of that sound.
Rock and roll came here because Buddy Holly had been turned down at Decca and came back to Lubbock to talk to the disc jockey there. What am I going to do? They don't want my music. He said, well, why don't you try Clovis, New Mexico? Norman Petty has his own studio. The studio was put here for the Norman Petty Trio.
Okay.
It wasn't intended to begin with to record artists from anywhere around the country, but when Roy Orbison came here, he needed something done. Buddy Knox came here to get some things done, so it became more commercial then as it spread out to other artists. It was coming so rapidly they could hardly keep up with it. They had 12 major hits in 15 months' time, and much of it right out of this studio. And Norman told him along, you know, the way things are going, Buddy, you need to get a manager. And Buddy said, well, I have one. He said, well, who is it? He said, you are. But Norman did sacred music, he did easy listening, he also did country and rock and roll and a lot of early 70s.
But he was versatile. I think that's what kind of made him relevant.
Not many studios were as versatile or as innovative as Norman Petty began.
So he had no boundaries. He was unorthodox. If it created the sound that he wanted to do something different, he did it. And talk about sound. Kenneth took me over to hear some of the original Buddy Holly tracks.
When they finished a session, they would come in and listen to the playback. So why don't you have a seat here where Buddy Holly sat? It's the very same chair.
This is it.
That's what I usually do
So cool.
when people want to hear what it sounded like then, because they wanted to know then what they were going to sound like on the radio.
Right. Yeah, that stereo sound. You feel like you get every bit of the recording. You know, you can tell that it was all.
It's just like you were
one.
there. This is
Man.
a time capsule.
Totally. On that note, pun intended, Kenneth showed me some of the rare vintage instruments still harbored in the studio. I even had the chance to play Vi Petty's piano, the same one used in all of the Buddy Holly songs. And the sound of this room is something you have to experience to believe. Every panel, every wall was designed by Norman to get the sound he desired. The precision that went into each detail is astounding. Beyond the mind-blowing sound, sitting in this room amidst all these instruments, you can feel the energy of the musical legends that once played them. And the fact you can have this type of interactive experience, that these instruments are not placed behind ropes, is remarkable. The museum is open normal times during the week, but you have to book an appointment on Saturdays. To see the recording studio, you have to book well in advance, and it's totally worth it when you get to sit in the same seat that Buddy Holly did so many years ago. And if you get hungry, you can grab some of the best taquitos in the state at the 1950s classic Foxy Drive-In down the street. And now from our former Secretary of Tourism, Monique Jacobson, here's another New Mexico true treasure.
One of New Mexico's best kept secrets and an absolute true treasure is the Valles Caldera National Preserve. This is a geological wonder unique to New Mexico. With more than 89,000 acres of incredible beauty, the Valles Caldera is the perfect place for many of your favorite outdoor activities. From hiking to fly fishing, from horseback rides in the warm months to snowshoeing and cross-country skiing in the winter, the Valles Caldera offers unmatched outdoor beauty and incredible wildlife viewing. The Valles Caldera can serve as a large, wondrous outdoor classroom for people of all ages. What is a caldera? Well, in this case, it's the immense, blown-out top of an ancient volcano. What to me was so enchanting about the Valles Caldera is that the beauty of this landscape is unique to any other part of New Mexico. It's vast, it's wide open, it's green in the summer, and in the winter, it's a winter wonderland unlike any other you've seen. It's still relatively new as a place for the public to visit, but trust me, it is well worth the trip. Find out about the Valles Caldera and other natural wonders at newmexico.org.
In our first 2 seasons, we've taken you all over the land of enchantment, to places we felt you would want to see and experience. Now it's your turn to share with us your New Mexico true treasures. All you have to do is get your smartphone and send an email or a 15-second video about why you think that place is a New Mexico true treasure. Who knows, we may even ask you to show us in person. Email your video to truetreasure@cliffdwellerdigital.com. Surprise and amaze us. We want to show our viewers your favorite spot and why you love New Mexico. Coming up, we go off-road to take the road less traveled. Find steals and deals for your next New Mexico vacation at newmexico.org. Red River is 3 hours northeast of Albuquerque on New Mexico 38 East, in the heart of the Enchanted Circle. With endless mountains comprising its backyard, Red River is the gateway to a spectrum of outdoor adventures. And today, I've opted to take a Jeep tour with Red River Off-Road. My 4x4 excursion conveniently departs from the center of town, quickly making its way off the pavement onto the rugged road that runs along Pioneer Creek. Built by miners at the end of the 19th century, this stretch of road climbs nearly 2,000 feet. And while considered an easy to moderate off-roading trail, it still provides all the fun and excitement you'd expect when four-wheeling, i.e. plenty of bouncing, bumping, and a bit of splashing, all the while taking in the fresh mountain air from an open vehicle. This is my massage for the day. The bonus for us is our guide Gary will be helping us explore some of the area's history. Beyond the Ute and Jicarilla Apaches that roamed this land, explorers, fur trappers, and prospectors later discovered the rich resources of the area and declared it Red River City. Remnants of the prospectors' gold, silver, and copper mines are scattered about these mountains, one of which we'll be seeing today.
Okay, guys, come on in.
Okay. It's a little dark in here now. So what were they looking for when they were mining in here?
Out here, quartz more than anything else. Quartz more than anything else. And sometimes they were just looking for, frankly, blind, dumb luck.
Right.
This was tough because then this one we're in right here, this was an abject failure. Absolutely.
Right.
Okay, folks, come on back. Watch your head and watch where you're walking. There's a bunch of granite here, and they're always looking for quartz. Now, folks, the red stuff here, of course, is still iron ore, literally rust, iron oxide coming out of the rock. And the cool thing here is that a lot of the Native Americans used to scrape this off. It was a renewable resource, right? Iron ore. Scrape this thing off and save it, and it's a reddish color, and they use it for face paint.
They just come in and scrape it off and save it.
Wherever they could find it close to them. In other words, like the Taos Pueblo over there, they'd find someplace over there that'd be easier for them. But that's what they would use it for.
This mine was not the only instance where things went bust. Ultimately, the promise of precious ores dimmed, and by the 1930s, Red River's reputation as a boomtown had evolved into one of a mountain retreat. The abandoned miners' cabins even became some of the early cabins to rent while vacationing in Red River. Gary steers us to one of the early miners' cabins. And you said this is how old?
Over 100 years old.
Over 100 years old.
Please do.
People what?
The door normally is pushed back.
People were much shorter than it looks like.
Yeah, well, look at the doorway.
And while not anything you'd find listed on an online travel site, it has been surprisingly preserved. That's all you needed when you were out here mining.
We don't have a beach.
We got water. Got the mountain. It's all in one. There's so many recreations to really get yourself into nature. That's like point blank. The ride was good. It was bumpy, but when you come to the destination, it's totally worth it. Oh man. I mean, this place is majestic.
It really is.
At least. What's your favorite thing about, giving these tours and coming out in this nature?
By and large, the customers are excellent. They're such great people. But honestly, what do you think of my office?
Yeah, not a bad deal.
Honestly, what do you think of my office? I did this on purpose. Yeah. It is great being outdoors.
What are they most surprised about when they come out here?
Health of the woods that I talk about. And they're usually surprised how easy it is if you know what you're doing to find gold. Yeah. I think they're very surprised to find that it's still here.
People do it in this creek? People pan for gold?
Oh, sure.
Really?
Yeah. Oh, they find that fascinating.
Yeah, the allure of coming to this part of the country and looking for gold, it's still alive.
Absolutely. Always will be.
Like Gary, I'm a fan of his workplace. You know life is good when you can call this experience just another day at the office. We went on the more tame tour, but if you want to do some serious off-roading, I'd ask for the Goose Leg Tour. It was chilly in the mountains, so I'd bring an extra layer or two to make sure you're comfortable. And if you want to do your own tour, Red River Off-Road offers UTV rentals as well. And now from the pages of New Mexico Magazine. Just east of the Gila Wilderness and a little more than an hour north of Las Cruces on Highway 152 are the historic mining towns of Hillsborough and Kingston. Just 17 miles off of I-25 on this stretch of road is Hillsborough. Once the biggest city in southern New Mexico, as well as the Sierra County seat, Hillsborough was founded in the 1870s after gold and silver were discovered in the surrounding Black Range. Driving through town, looking at the refurbished Victorian homes and sprawling adobes, you can see the prosperity this town enjoyed. And what little remains of the county courthouse and jail is a lasting reminder of the many outlaws once housed here and the famous trials that ultimately determined their fate. Perhaps the most notable of these being Oliver Lee's trial for the murder of Albert Fountain and his son. But the fresh paint on the remaining homes and buildings is a good indicator that this town is alive and well. Not to mention the vibrant general store and cafe that is the hub of this close-knit community. I duck in to meet up with local Sonia Rutledge to get her take on the town.
Very nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you as well. So this is an awesome place,
Yes.
old relics from...
Yeah, I think it goes clear back to like 1870s.
And you've been here for a long time?
Yes, I've been here for a long time.
And how has it changed or evolved over time?
A lot of things about it haven't changed at all, you know, and that's what keeps it unique and nice.
But everybody just says hello to you,
Yes, they
and
do. Yes, they
you know how you doing, and it's great. I think that's what people want to come see is old New Mexico, what it was like back then when everybody just knew each other. Right?
Well, this is old New Mexico, really. It truly is. And so a lot of the old families have ties here. Their families come back just to see where their grandma lived or their grandfather lived. And so it's very nice to be able to share that with them. It really is.
With over 8,000 people once inhabiting this town, no wonder so many New Mexicans can trace the roots of their family tree back to this neck of the woods. But Hillsborough wasn't the only bustling center of commerce in these parts. I had 10 miles down the road to visit the neighboring historical town of Kingston. Where Hillsborough was known for gold, Kingston was built on the gains from silver mining. There's just one road that leads you through the center of town, and on it you will find the old hotel, the Purchase Bank, the assay office, and the still operating Black Range Lodge. I meet with Catherine, one of the current owners, to hear more about the historic village she now calls home. So Catherine, how long have you been here in Kingston?
You know, I bought this place 30 years ago on my honeymoon, but the lodge dates back to the 1880s, and then part of it was added on in the 1930s. Yeah.
And you've been able to capture some of the history of what this was before it was a lodge, or has it always been a lodge?
You know, it always was a lodge. It was a lodge for miners, mining hotel in the 1880s, and then in the 1930s, a lady from El Paso had all the stone part added onto it. Now the stones came from the old saloons and casinos of Kingston. There was like supposedly 27 saloons, one church. Many of those were in disrepair or even completely gone by the 1930s.
And I also know that the bank is still intact. That was there back then. Are we going to be? Can we go and actually see the bank?
Yes, we can take a look at the bank. Yeah, and it is. It's probably the most intact of all the buildings that are still here in Kingston, and it's really cool. It was the first bank in Sierra County.
Really?
Back in the day, in the Wild West days. So Kingston was one of the largest towns in the whole territory of New Mexico back in the 1880s, but in 1893 they went to the gold standard. So silver was no longer very valuable, and it dropped by 90%, almost overnight.
Which means everything that was being built here was just kind of
left. People kind of abandoned the town. They went off looking for gold or oil or other things, and in the meantime there were a few people that stayed, and this building became a post office. However, the bank vault was still here.
Is it still there?
Yes.
Old bank vaults are like the coolest thing because they're so heavy.
Check it out. I promise I won't lock you in.
You know the code, right?
I know the code.
Oh, it's so heavy. That's so
But where is it now? Where?
There are no strangers in these small towns. Old-fashioned hospitality greets you when you arrive, and locals are happy to open the doors to their homes or their vault, so you may take a step back in time. If you're a history buff, stop by the Hillsborough Historical Society, which is just a few doors down from the Hillsborough General Store Cafe, to really dive into some of the history of these boomtowns. Another cool thing they have here is once a year they do a theatrical recreation of the historic Henry Fountain trial, so check to see if it's happening before you go. And while you're in the area, I suggest you stop by Black Range Vineyards to try some great local wines. For more great stories like this from New Mexico Magazine, visit newmexico.org. We're so lucky to live in a state that no matter what direction your compass guides you, adventure is just around the bend. So with that being said, what are you doing next weekend?